So the next thing we're going to talk about are properties of real numbers. The properties that we're going to start off with you've talked about before. You've seen these in other classes. The commutative property of addition or multiplication is where the order of values does not matter. So the order does not matter. So that would be something like A plus B is going to be the same as B plus A. Or 2 plus 3 is going to be the same as 3 plus 2. Or x times y is going to be the same as y times x. Or 5 times 4 is going to be the same as 4 times 5. Commutative property works for addition and multiplication only. It does not work for subtraction, and it does not work for division. Associative property is when you group certain values and the order does not matter. So grouping of values does not matter. So let's say that we want to add a plus b plus c, and we want to add it twice. If I add a plus b first and then add c, I should get exactly the same answer as if I were to add b plus c first and then add a. So basically I can group things in a different order and still end up getting the same answer. So if I take 5 plus 1 plus 3, and I add 5 plus 1 first, I'd get 6. 6 plus 3 would be 9. If I decide that I want to add the 1 plus 3 first, 1 plus 3 gives me 4, plus the 5 still gives me 9, so the order again doesn't matter, but I'm not getting the same answer by moving things around. I'm getting the same answer by grouping them. So that's the associative property. And again, it also works for multiplication. If I have 2 times 4 times 7, and I multiply 2 times 4 first, and then I multiply by 7, I get the same answer as if I multiply the 4 and the 7 first, and then multiply by 2. The identity property is where everything stays the same. So if I add some number to 0, I get that same number back again. And if I multiply some number by 1, I get that number back again. The inverse property is when using opposite to cancel a value. When you're using opposite values to cancel. So if I have a number and I add to it a negative, I get 0. So for example, 5 plus a negative 5 is going to give me 0. Those are inverses. They basically cancel each other out. And if I multiply a number by 1 over that number, I get 1. So if I multiply 2 times 1/2, I get 1. So those are my inverse properties. Okay, the next one is the property of 0. That's when we multiply something by 0 and it always equals 0. So 17 times 0 is equal to 0. A times 0 is equal to 0. 1/2 times 0 is equal to 0. And then the distributive property is when we multiply a value to an expression inside parentheses. So we might have something like 2 times x plus 7. When we do that, we multiply the 2 times the x, and then we multiply the 2 times the 7, and so we'd end up getting 2x plus 14. So something might look, or it might also look something like a, and then in parentheses, b plus c. And so we get a times b plus a times c. All right, so those are properties that you probably have seen before. Let's take a look at some new properties. All right, the reflexive property is when a value is always equal to itself. A value equals itself. This is one of the easiest properties. Something like 16 is equal to 16, 5x is equal to 5x, a is equal to a. Something is equal to itself. Symmetric property is if you have one thing equal to something else, then that second thing is going to be equal to the first thing. So basically you can change the order around. So if x is equal to 3, then 3 is equal to x. Okay. Then we have the transitive property that says if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is going to equal to C. Then A is going to be equal to C. So if 4 plus 3 equals 7 and 7 is equal to the square root of 49, then 4 plus 3 is equal to the square root of 49. So we have 4 plus 3 is equal to 7. 7 is also equal to the square root of 49. So then those two things must be equal as well. All right, the last property is closure. Closure is a set is closed under an operation if the operation always produces an element of the same set. If an element outside of the set is produced, then it's not closed. So we have some true-false questions here. First one says integers are closed under multiplication. So if I multiply two integers together, I'm always going to get an integer. There's never a case where I'm going to multiply two integers together and not get another integer. So this one's going to be true. Okay, the next one, natural numbers are closed under subtraction. Well, if I take two natural numbers like 5 and 9 and I subtract them, I could get -4. -4 is not a natural number, that's an integer, so that would be false. If we take two natural numbers, we can subtract them and get a number that's not a natural number, so the natural numbers are not closed under subtraction. Okay, the next one, even numbers are closed under addition. Well, if I add two even numbers together, I'm always going to get another even number, so that one's going to be true. Then we have irrational numbers are closed under division. Well, if I divide two irrational numbers, let's say pi divided by pi, I get 1. 1 is not an irrational number, so this would be false. And then perfect squares are closed under subtraction. So if I subtract two perfect squares, it is possible for me to get a number that's not a perfect square. So perfect squares are not closed under subtraction. Okay, so that's it for today. The properties are a little tricky. We're going to work more with those in class tomorrow. But for now, just kind of start looking through them, try to familiarize yourself with them, and make sure that you know what each of the properties are. Okay, and that's it for today.